Hello YouTube, this is Broke Gamer and I welcome you back to the channel. So for this bit of a longer video, I'll give you my advice with regards to game collecting as a hobby. So certainly I've made many mistakes with regards to be it picking up games during the height of COVID when they're at their highest in terms of price, or even picking up games that I didn't see myself playing and I ended up getting rid of them. So that said, whether you're a seasoned collector or or starting off your gaming collection, buying into say older games like PS2 or Xbox 360, that sort of thing, I think maybe you can learn a thing or two from myself. I've certainly made a couple of mistakes along the way, and that even the advice that I do share, hopefully that this can aid you in your own collecting journey, that you can avoid the pitfalls that I've certainly fallen into, and that you can curate your game collection into something that you'll ultimately love and you'd be able to share with the rest of the enthusiasts within this community. Without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, my first piece of advice for game collectors out there, and this is kind of an obvious one: buy the games that you want to play, games that you think that you'll have a personal connection to, and sell the games that you think that you know that you won't play at all. That said, we all have our own kind of preferences when it comes to video gaming. Mine's is like JRPGs, racing games, or even games that tell a minimalist story, like say Rime, or even Journey that I have for PlayStation 4. That said, it doesn't take away from the fact that other games like Call of Duty or Halo are awesome. I do think that even though those are not my cup of tea, that doesn't give anybody else the right to start hating on those gaming genres at all. I actually think it's perfectly awesome to have a blend of different genres that appeal to different people. And that's what makes gaming so awesome, that we can have a conversation about the games that we do enjoy and games that maybe do not spark interest. However, we should all have an open mind and then enjoy the different experiences that are on offer. The gaming world is very vast, and there will always be something new or awesome to pick up on your gaming journey. Okay, the second tip, and that is to buy what you can afford or to budget for. And with a heavy heart, accept that you won't be able to buy everything that's on the shop or available at that precise moment in time. So a couple of years ago, when money was a little bit more, I would say less tight, I was able to get the .hack games on the cheap from a Facebook marketplace. I was able to be friends with the seller, which I am still to this day. So I was able to pick up these games comfortably for about 2,000 Rand. I'll leave the conversion down below. So it was at that precise moment in time I was able to pick up these games affordably, and I was very, very happy. Now that life has moved on, it's now the beginning of 2026. My daughter's grown up, and we need to buy for her leg splints and foot splints, as well as the fact that she's doing the hippotherapy or the horse riding to help with the therapy. Of course, she's a special needs child, so unfortunately, even though the gaming budget for the next few months will be a bit on the lean side, that doesn't mean I will stop game collecting. It just means that I need to now make the budgetary plans to afford all of those expenses. And that's why I'll put this as my second piece of advice for gamers. Life happens. Unfortunately, we can't buy everything that's in the store, whether it be the latest PS5 game or even the latest collector's edition of Persona, as silly as that sounds, or even just maybe a Xenosaga 2, Xenosaga 3 in my case, which I really had to pass up, unfortunately. So that said, buy what you can afford or can budget for, and that is very, very important, because no amount of video games is actually going to pay for maybe an accident that you have later down the line, or or even a leak, or unexpected school bill that comes up. Be prepared for anything and only buy your games when you're able to financially be comfortable making that purchase. Okay, moving on. Okay, my third tip, and this is mainly for new collectors, and that is to focus on a set amount of consoles that mainly have, like, say, a variety of games, or the ones that you have a lot of nostalgia for. So maybe you've played in the back in the day, PlayStation 3, the 360, or even a PlayStation 2, which is a very large library, and a lot of the games are still very affordable to collect for. That said, that's one of the reasons why I don't own many Nintendo games. I mean, like, I'm not very nostalgic to the NES. This came out before I was born, and you've seen my Nintendo collection in a prior video. That my Nintendo collection is actually very small, so I'm not really partial to Nintendo as I am with the PlayStation, or even other consoles like that I do have some games for, like your PS Vita. So I have, like, here the Little Big Planet, or even this game that I picked up on a whim in Japan as a tourist from Shop in Tokyo. So obviously these, like the PS Vita, it's a very expensive system to collect for. The market is relatively niche and doesn't make much sense collecting for, unless you're actually very partial to the PS Vita system, or maybe even other systems in general. That said, just as one of my top tips for collectors, by focusing on a lower pool of consoles, you find you're able to buy games that you want, and for more comfortable price point, or even a smaller scope, so that you don't feel overwhelmed in your game collecting journey in general. Alright, moving on. Okay, my fourth tip, and that is to avoid FOMO. Don't collect with regret. Now, beginning my game collecting journey a little bit seriously in the midst of 2022. This was at the height of COVID, and I'm sad to say that I was gripped by FOMO. I actually overspent buying The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D, as well as Ocarina of Time for the 3DS. I've paid a lot more than what I should have, considering how fast these dropped in price. It's one of my gaming regrets that I have to date, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about it. But these games are not going to run out. They will always be available, whether it be in a physical form or going the pirate route and actually emulating them. That said, don't collect with regret and avoid FOMO. You don't want to end up in a situation where you overspent, or you're having to explain to your wife why the finances are in the red. Okay, moving on. Okay, for my next tip, less is more. That's borrowing a quote from one of the YouTubers that I watch. His name is Collector's Quest, and that is to not worry about collecting everything. Find things that you will play, and then sell things that you won't, because it's absolutely freeing once you actually sell the games that you're not going to play. So thus curate your game collection. Let me give you an example. Assassin's Creed. These are the only 2 games that I have. I actually had everything else from the first up to Origins. I have since sold those games or gave it away, because after playing the first 2, I already knew that buying all those games up and just having it sit on the shelf, I was not going to play them at all. So instead of having these sit and then obviously racking my brain of whether I'm going to play them or not, I took them to the shop and I traded it in for some credit, and was able to buy another game. I bought myself Need for Speed High Stakes for the PlayStation 1, which is something that I don't regret. But I think also the next person that is into Assassin's Creed can actually find the games relatively more accessible. And I won't linger or have that lingering feeling of regret that I won't play any of these games. At least I'll be able to play these two, that is Black Flag and Unity. So curate your game collection and only buy things that you want to play and things that you do see yourself playing in the future. For my next tip, bad games versus good games. Basically, we all have our preferences in video games. We should try and strive to playing those games and enjoying, even if we try something that's new, we find that we might like it, or maybe we won't, but that said, we will always stumble upon something that we would enjoy, whether it be a new or exciting experience. Let me start with this, Ride to Hell Retribution. This is a very terrible game, but unfortunately it's in the league that it's very bad that it's good. So I did enjoy it to an extent for all its silliness. It's not a pickup I recommend, but I enjoyed it for what it is. Then we come across what should have been ticking all the boxes for me. Astonishia Story. Looks like an RPG with the kind of anime-esque art style. But unfortunately, this wasn't what I thought it was, and I ended up wasting my time playing the game. I got through 80% of the game through the story, only to meet the second to last boss, and then dying with my entire party. I couldn't progress any further, and I wasn't going to spend my time restarting the game from scratch because I couldn't exactly grind from that point on and progress. So I ended up dropping the game. So my tip for you is, if you do find that a game is not worth it and you do drop playing it, don't have any regrets. Unfortunately, it's just a fact of life, and it's a fact of game collecting. We all strive to have a new experience, whether it's playing different games or experiencing different ways of playing. Unfortunately, we will play games that we won't enjoy, and if we do drop them, it's not for us. It doesn't mean that we hate them, it just didn't resonate. For my next tip, that is to not emulate someone else's collection, and it's to only collect what you strive towards and the goals that you set for your own game collecting journey. So obviously, like GameCube, I'm not partial to it. I do want to play the Zelda games, but I'm not going to emulate trying to collect every single Zelda game that's out there, like Minish Cap or even the other one on NES, because those prices far exceed what I'm willing to spend. That said, focus on what you want to collect. Don't compare your game collection to anybody else's. I think it's pretty impressive that we all are in this hobby, that we're all enjoying ourselves, but also enjoy the collecting journey. And don't think that that next person has a better gaming collection. It just means that our circumstances are different, and that it's just another way of motivating to collect the games that we do want. I think we can all share our own tips on our collecting journey, but also don't feel that you are missing out on having the latest greatest thing, or every, say, single Persona game that's out there. I do think that we should just try and focus on what's important to us, and focus what we want to collect. Enjoy the collecting journey, enjoy the process, and there's no end result. Collecting is a continuous journey, and it should be a fun one at that. For my next tip, collect within your means. Basically, whether it be money, space, or even just the time that allows you to play video games, only you'll be able to answer that. But let me give this one as an example. Final Fantasy Collection 1-6. This is still brand new. You can see the PlayStation seal here at the bottom. So while it would have been nice to collect the games on PlayStation Portable, which some of these were ported to, or even the PlayStation 1, Having these on one disc for the PlayStation 4 is awesome. It costs a lot less than buying each game individually, and it's readily more accessible, having to access these Final Fantasy games. These were actually the last 6 that I needed, because they were the most rarest, and having these released as one collection made it much easier for me, as these were the only games that I was missing. So that's what I mean when I say collect within your means. So obviously only focus on what you can collect and what's affordable. Maybe instead of having, say, now all 6 games occupy your shelf and taking up weight, this one game disc will do it. And that I think is pretty awesome into itself. My next top tip: don't let blemishes, marks, maybe a missing manual stop you from picking a game up. The game does not need to be perfect, and in the case of retro games, games do age and they do have a history. For this example, I have Silent Hill 3. So I bought this from the same guy that gave me Brutal Legend on PlayStation 3 as a gift. So this doesn't have the manual. It's got the showcase of all the games released by Konami for the PlayStation 2, and it's got here the movies that were released 20 years ago on DVD. So that's impressive, but like I said, I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that this doesn't have the original manual. If I do find it, happy days, that's perfect. But don't also let things like maybe say a broken case or even the fact that a game is missing a manual prevent you from picking it up. That's what will rob us from having great games being added to the collection. I do think that if you do see a game out in the wild and it has these niggly sort of effects on the case, a case is always something you can replace, maybe find the manual at a later stage. I do recommend picking these up, especially if it is something that has a very curtailed history like Silent Hill 3, or maybe something that intrigues you that you'd like to add to your gaming collection. So for this tip, don't let these small things prevent you from picking up what could be a very awesome gaming experience. For my next tip, there's always more than one way to play other than the physical media for which the product was released for. So if you're unable to find that particular game for the say PlayStation 2, then you always are able to find an alternative, that being going the pirate route and emulating the game through another means. So awesome games like Shadow Hearts, which I really advocate all RPG fans do play. This particular one I've received as a gift. I know it's a very rare and expensive game. That said, it is one that everyone should play that's a fan of say RPGs and horror style games. If you're unable to purchase the original PlayStation 2 version, I recommend emulating it, because not all games will be within the price bracket that we can afford it, or it won't be available at that point in time. Unfortunately, it's just a fact of life. Even games like Xenosaga, I'll just have to live with the fact that I'm unable to play those games because it's expensive. And even though I do have a little bit of regret not able to purchase it at that point in time, it's just a way of saying that it is what it is, unfortunately. So there's more than one way to play. Don't feel like you've lost out on anything if you're unable to play the original game for the media which it was released for. There's always a different means. For my final but top tip, that is to have fun in the game collecting process. Don't treat it like a job, and please don't treat it as an investment with dollar signs all over. So if you see your games getting a little bit more expensive as they get rarer, happy days, but that shouldn't be seen as the main focus. Once you start seeing dollar signs on your whether it be your game collection or your trading cards, is the moment you lose all manner of fun that you derive from your hobby. So things like Dark Paladin, which is one of my mementos from my childhood. I won't see this as an investment, but rather as a memento from a time and place when I really enjoyed the cartoon, and seeing Dark Paladin himself on screen. It's really something that I can take with me growing older, and just reminding me of a time and place where I had the most fun as a kid. Games like Shadow of the Beast, which is one of my rarer PlayStation 4 games. I also don't see this as an investment, but rather as a unique and quirky video game that made its way to my collection, which I found on a whim at the flea market. That said, I'm not too worried about how much it costs, but whether I'll enjoy it or not remains to be seen. And then even things like this, which I found was truly unique, and that is Uncharted, the Fourth Labyrinth, which is the storybook. Surprised it doesn't have a video game of its own. But that said, it's just something interesting that I thought I'd add to the collection. Also don't see this as an investment, but rather as a novelty that I can have sitting on my shelf. So that's my top tips for game collecting and the game collecting process. Now, what are some of your tips that you can share with me, or even just the community that does watch my videos? Be sure to leave in the comments. Thank you for watching, and may you take care out there. All the best.